I apologize in advance for the darkness of the video. The sun has officially set over DC, so the lighting is a little bit dark in here, but regardless, welcome to this week's Decision Desk HQ 2022 election forecasting model, where we are using our proprietary model to forecast the outcome this November of every single seat in the House and the Senate, and of course, which party is going to win the majority in both, regardless of whether the sun is setting. I'm Professor Liberty Fitter, Professor of Data Science, so let's dive into this week's model. This week, our model shows the Democrats with a 58% chance of control in a 50-50 Senate with Vice President Kamala Harris in control. That's down another point from last week. And while the point itself doesn't matter and it's not very telling, a few weeks ago, the Democrats were coming close to a 65% threshold, which would have moved the overall race for the Senate from a toss-up to lean. So now it's firmly back in this toss-up category, and that means that 1 point does mean something. This shows a clear trend of moving from potential Democratic control to a toss-up or maybe even Republican control. But we do have a split on our race level category. So 2 races moved out of toss-up range again. So we have Pennsylvania, and that moves back to lean Democrat, while North Carolina inches its way back into the lean Republican category. Pennsylvania saw one new poll from Raba Research that showed Democrat John Fetterman up by 9%. Now that's a fairly large outlier compared to other polls, but it did push the DDHQ poll average to Democrat plus 6.7. So still an outlier, but we're still counting it. And in North Carolina, there was a Trafalgar Group poll showing Republican Ted Budd in the lead by 2.8%, which moved the DDHQ poll average to Republican plus 2.3% overall. So we did see some real movement. And again, I think you have to remember that we're talking about individual polls, but there's an enormous amount of other data and other polls that are going into these types of predictions. This leaves us, of course, with only 2 pure toss-up races. We have Nevada and Georgia. So those seats are held by Democrats, while Pennsylvania and North Carolina are now in GOP hands. So one could say that the fight is on Democratic turf. But I think it's important to note about the North Carolina race is that absentee votes have started going out there. So the 2022 voting season has officially begun. We are off to the races. So there is a lot more coming soon as we get into full-on swing of election season. And I think it's really important to note that one race we haven't talked a lot about and you haven't heard a lot about on the news is New Hampshire, which is now lean Democratic, but it is super vulnerable to GOP takeover. The Granite State, as it is so aptly known, is holding its primary today, the same day this video is posting, Tuesday the 13th. So depending upon when you watch this, we may finally know for sure who the GOP nominee is. But I think that given the fundamentals of the race, a particular nominee probably won't shift our rating too much one way or the other, but the campaign is going to begin in earnest, which could shift things, and it is certainly one to keep an eye on. You got to remember that Democratic Senator Maggie Hassan won the seat in 2016 by only 1,200 votes. Yes, that is 1,200 votes. That's all she won by. So this is certainly one to watch. Let's move over to the House. The GOP now has an 80% chance of taking the majority in November, and that's down from almost 90% when we started tracking things in July. So while Republicans are still the heavy favorites, obviously the trend has been down from their perspective, and that means something. And it may tell you more about the size of the GOP majority rather than whether or not they're actually going to have a majority. But I think it's really important to note that huge difference, because right now we have a mean seat projection of 230 Republican seats and 205 Democratic seats, and that's down from 239 seats for Republicans back in July, which is a lot. That's 9 seats. There's no other way to put it. It has consistently been moving in that trend from Republicans towards the Democratic side, but I think the Republicans are probably still safe for the House. We have 11 House races listed as toss-ups and another 23 listed as leaning one way or the other. Of those, 12 are lean Democratic and 11 to the Republicans. But you can see the full list on our forecast model website that's linked right here below. But that should give you a good sense of the lay of the land of what both parties are facing and dealing with right now before we get into the full-blown swing of election season. So as the sun has set over DC, that is going to do it for this week. If you're enjoying these videos, please give it a like and then subscribe to our channel and make sure to sign up for notifications. It's that little bell thing down there. I had to figure that out so that you get a notification whenever we post one of these looks at our model or our primary night preview videos. And just so you know, if you have any questions you'd like us to address in a future video about our forecasting or our modeling or anything, please just leave them in the comments. I respond to the comments. We all respond to our comments. We'll do our best to answer them or answer them in an upcoming video. But until then, I am Dr. Liberty Vittert, Professor of Data Science. Thank you so much for watching this update.